Hello, I'm Clarence Anthony, CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities. I can't believe it, but 5 years ago this month, the COVID-19 pandemic changed our lives forever. I recall our Congressional City Conference had just concluded, and while a few of our speakers were starting to wear masks, it was only just starting to feel like the pandemic was a real threat. When we decided to close the NLC offices, I remember saying to my employees, you guys go home today and I'll talk to you about how we move forward next Monday. We thought it would only be just a week or so, but little did we know that it would nearly be 2 years before we returned to an in-person hybrid work schedule. That was a striking moment 5 years ago, and I can remember it so clearly. Seeing the buildings, streets, and downtowns completely empty in cities, towns, and villages across the country was really something, honestly, that was really scary for me. And we were all stunned by what had struck us so quickly and realized that we had to get to work. And so the National League of Cities really started thinking about city leaders being on the front line of this crisis. Residents were coming to their local leaders with questions about how to stay safe, where they could get medical treatment, and what this pandemic was all about. City leaders themselves had so many questions about the economic impacts of the pandemic, with local economies suddenly at standstill. What became a clear fact for us was that we had to step up as the National League of Cities. We had a responsibility to step in and save our communities, to do everything we could, whether it was advocate for resources for them, helping them get through this crisis. And we were wildly successful. Together with the 19,000 communities all over America, we fought hard for federal legislation that would send relief directly to every community. First, we worked with President Trump to ensure that cities were at the table with the CARES Act. And it was so helpful, but it didn't reach many of the small and middle-sized communities throughout America. So we kept up the fight and worked hard in partnership with the Biden administration and with Congress to deliver $65.1 billion that was necessary through the American Rescue Plan Act. These funds gave communities the resources they needed not just to face the pandemic head on, but also to build their communities back even stronger. Thanks to that transformative legislation, the cities, towns, and villages that we all live in today look a lot different than they would have otherwise. Despite of all of those challenges, these last 5 years have demonstrated how resilient our cities are and just how innovative they can be when we all band together as one community of local governments and one community of local leadership. So as we look ahead to the next 5 years, 10 years, and even 100 years of America's cities, let's build on that spirit of innovation and resilience. Let's remember that cities, towns, and villages were the first to jump into action and to lead when the pandemic first hit. We worked hard for a real partnership with the federal government. We worked hard with the strong partnership with private sector. And most of all, we worked hard to work with our residents to return our communities back to that strong, powerful level of government that is the most trusted level of government. And through the pandemic, it really showed that. We showed up and we returned our communities even stronger than ever. 5 years ago, wow, what a difference. But NLC was there with you all the way.